Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to this week's recap video. I'm sitting out here in the fireplace area. It's beautiful outside. It has been. This whole fall has been gorgeous, but we are expecting nighttime temps in the teens by the end of this week. So I'm just out wanting to soak it all in, like the last bit of beautiful weather. And before we get into the videos from last week and start answering questions, I do want to announce the 10 winners of the Felco gloves. It was the giveaway we announced in last week's recap video. So I'm just going to run through the names, and I apologize in advance for pronouncing names wrong because I will. I know it. So, Laura Del Rossi, Sarah Bira, Surviving the City, Melanie Rust, Meridine Woodson, Tyler Valvoda, Vershelle Bond, Lori Gorka, Carolyn Bird, and Patty Stricker. Congratulations to the 10 of you. I think Erin already messaged you and we'll get those gloves sent right over. All right, the first video was I used a ton of pumpkins to decorate our front porch, and I did. I counted 134. Keep in mind though that we did harvest over 400 in the end in total out of our space out in the new cut garden. So I have plenty to use in other projects to still give away. We have plenty that we're going to be putting in our root cellar to save and eat off of throughout the winter. In fact, we're going to eat one tonight, Erin.
Are we?
Yeah, we are. I think I'm going to grab one of the acorn squash. Anyway, I would never have dreamed or never would dream of putting that many pumpkins and squash out because it's just too expensive when you buy them at a farm stand, especially when you're buying a specialty varieties. It adds up so fast. So usually, like every year, I'll usually focus on one entryway, and I'll buy like a cartload of pumpkins and squash, and I'm always like, oh, when I have to pay that bill. So it was so fun to have that space out there, not really expecting it to do much, to be so prolific and be able just to put whatever I wanted out, knowing that it cost me like the packet of seeds and the infrastructure to get the water set up, which once, you know, we can use all that stuff again. So it's not like a, what's that? It's not like a waste. It's stuff that we can use over and over again. So I'm just so thrilled with it. And it was also fun to use some of the new unique stone pieces, those gallery scroll urns with corn that we grew. Anyway, so fun. First question was from Brandy. How do you hire your helpers, Paul? Through internet ads? Someone you already knew. I went to school for horticulture and would love to work for you. Unfortunately, I live in Canada though, so that would never happen, but to work on one property instead of a different one almost daily would be super rewarding. That's actually a really good question and a good segue because I was going to mention at some point, and we're not quite ready to put it out there officially with details, but we are going to be looking to add a couple of people to our team in the near future. We would love to find somebody who is licensed in irrigation. It's incredibly hard to find somebody who can do that. We've got a lot lined up for next year, both on our property, and we're going to do several home makeovers. So to have somebody with that background would be awesome. And then we'd also like to add somebody who would work directly with me. So somebody who wasn't afraid of the camera, somebody who's creative, somebody who's good at being an assistant too, that sort of thing. So again, like we're not quite ready with details and all of that, but be thinking about it. Of course, they are positions that you have to live here in the area. So you know, that's a thing. So anyway, to answer your question, mostly we've hired people through word of mouth. Most of the people who have worked for us, we have known for a long time. And we have hired a couple people through Indeed.com as well. So anyway, if you do reach out to us, which I would like advise you to maybe wait until we have all the details out. But if you do reach out to us, know that we get a lot of messages every single day and we just can't respond to everybody. And so if you've sent a message in the past and haven't had a response, I'm really sorry. And that's one of the reasons why we need to add people to our team, because I hate that happens. So anyway, let's move on to the second question from Christina. Question, how many times can you cut and splice your drip tubing before you replace it? Indefinite times. I mean, the more you add like more emitters and you tax the drip tubing more, like by having more water come out in different spots, it only will go so far. Like the brown drip tubing will go between 400 and 500 feet for us, but it'll start to reduce. The more emitters I pop in there, like if I've got a row of hydrangeas and I'm letting the drip tubing water them, but I also put individual emitters in to water extra, I mean, that's just more water that it's taking, so you can go less amount of feet, if that makes sense. But really, you can do it quite a bit. Scarlett says, will displaying the pumpkins and squash negatively affect their shelf life, and or are they going to be inedible after being displayed? Yes, it will negatively affect their shelf life for sure. The more they're in the sun, the more they deteriorate. Also, when they're exposed to extremely cold temperatures and frost and freezing, then they go downhill real quick. So I tried to pick a lot of the more decorative type pumpkins and squash that I had first, And I saved back a lot of the type that I know are really good, like they're really tasty and they have a really good shelf life. So I tried to distinguish between the two of them. I did use some good eating stuff though up there too, just because I wanted a good mix. And it doesn't mean they're inedible. Like I could go up there and pick a squash out of there and eat it tonight if we wanted to, but you know, the more I keep them out, the shorter time they will keep. Tanya said, I love the jack-o'-lanterns. Where would I be able to purchase them? I got those at Home Depot like 3 years ago, maybe. I actually had to hot glue one of the teeth back on because it popped off when I was moving it to its position this year. C. Steed says, could you share out the flat bag? Could you share out the flat bag you used for a lot of jobs? I've seen it in the lavender video and others and would like to know the brand. The flat bag. Oh, there's two things. So I use the kangaroo pop-up bag. There's the one that it flattens for storage, so you can like flatten it, and there's two toggle things, fasteners on the sides where it'll stay flat for storage. But I also used DeWitt sent out a leaf tarp, and it's just like a flat piece of tarp, but it's got handles on the four corners where you can put stuff in the middle, and I think that's how Paul moved the straw bale, so as not to make a huge mess. You put it out flat, put the straw bale in the center or whatever you're moving, and then just kind of gather up the sides, and you can lift the whole thing without it making a mess. And it's been really nice because it's like a perfect size of tarp. We'll try to remember to link both of those things down below. Ashley said, side unrelated question, where did you end up planting the 3 hoop spruces? They are not planted yet. Actually, that's a priority this week. We have the 3 big spruces and we have 5 Corinthian lindens where I was going to plant where the oaks came out, decided not to use them over there. So priority this week is to get those 8 big trees in the ground, so at least we don't have to try to winter those over. Wintering smaller stuff over is a little bit easier, just, I mean, logistic wise and moving them around and such. So anyway, hopefully in the ground this week we will film a video about it. Kara said, am I the only one that doesn't like the massive urns filled with the untidy corn stalks? Oh.
You were the only one.
No, there were a few. You should see them now after we had a nice rainstorm. You'd really like them now. Kiwi Danny said, wait, do you have a basketball court? No, our neighbor does. He's got like it's like a tennis/basketball court. You can use it either way, but it butts up to the back of our property. And I'm sure he's going to let Benjamin play on that when he gets a little older. All right, next video was the October garden tour. We just went around the garden. I think we showed quite a bit of it too. The only parts we didn't show were things that hadn't changed since the last time we showed you. So Ethan said, do you prefer Henry Studio or Unique Stone better? I see you use both, and I'm just wondering if you have a preference for the two. I like different things about both of those companies. So Henry has some really beautiful fountains that I really like. Unique Stone though, the thing about their pieces that I love is that a lot of them are historical reproductions. They've got just this look and this patina about them. They don't have a shiny molded look. They almost look aged already, even brand new, which is what I prefer in my garden. I love that. So I tend to go, like, I have a lot of their pieces now, and my mom and dad love their stuff and always have, and that's how I knew about them, because they've been bringing in their stuff, and they've had brought Henry Studio stuff in the past into the garden center as well. But you know, we have that grand 3-tier Kensington fountain from Henry in our kind of corner triangle shaped garden, and I just love that fountain too. So I don't know. I mean, I hate to pit one against the other. They are very different. Claire said, where does Laura live? Heard it before, forgot though. We live in Eastern Oregon on the border of Oregon and Idaho. We live about an hour from Boise. Winterberry Hare said, will you guys still be doing a rose garden in the garden area you were planning where the car drove through the gate? What do you think about that?
I think we should.
Aaron really wants to do a rose garden, which is so weird to me that you even say that. For me, I don't know. We have a lot of roses around our garden and I love them. I don't know. I mean, roses are so like in and out of bloom. I have to be really selective about the varieties we put back there. Ones that I know do really well here, ones that bloom a lot of the summer, because you know there are some roses that bloom and then it's weeks before they bloom again. And I don't really want to have a bunch of space where I'm just like waiting for those few peak weeks where it looks good, if that makes sense. And I know there's ways. I mean, look at David Austin's rose gardens. Like, they know what they're doing. I should just like try to copy one of theirs. That might be a good idea. Audrey said, why don't you sell them? I'm guessing that has to do with the flowers and pumpkins, maybe? I'm guessing that that's what the question is referring to, because we did pop over into the cut flower garden, and it's just never my goal to sell them. I mean, never say never. I mean, it may come a point in our life where, you know, that's where we make our money. I have no idea, to survive. But that wasn't my goal with this space. My goal is to be able to give away abundance, because I feel like we've been so greatly blessed, and it's a good way. It's a good way for me to fulfill my passion for growing things. I mean, that's kind of like one of the big reasons for me. I have a passion for growing things. I like to see things succeed. I like to see them bloom. And when you've nurtured something from a seed all the way to what happened in that garden, there's nothing more thrilling to me than that. And then to be able to give away that abundance just adds that extra layer of awesomeness. So yeah, I will be better organized next year though, because now I'll kind of understand, like, okay, this is how many jars and containers I'm going to need. I need to set up like some kind of a jar drop or a vase donation drop, because like I rated my canning supply for jars and stuff, and I went to the dollar store. They had some little containers to use too, and I'll also kind of have a better idea of how long it actually takes to make bouquets, because that's not our primary, that's not my primary job. You know, this is like a little side project, and it's almost like a full-time job to have time enough to cut all those flowers. Anyway, I'll be much better organized next year on how to do it in a more efficient way, to where we can be giving things away as they're ready in the garden, instead of seeing some of the flowers kind of wither and not be used. Steven said, where are the big black pots from the old entrance going? So right now they have been cleaned out. The Supertunias were starting to fizzle out a little bit. So we cleaned them out. They're sitting back behind our barn at the moment, and I'm not really sure where they're gonna go. Usually we hang on to pots for 1 season, maybe 2 seasons. If we haven't used them in 2 full seasons, we give them away to family or friends, or we put them on Facebook Marketplace and just say first come, first serve, like come pick it up. They might end up though somewhere on the new property, because there's a lot of new opportunity up there. And I don't have like a ton of massive containers. I do plan on probably putting those gallery squirrel urns up there somewhere. I don't know though, they look so pretty where they're at right now. It's going to be hard to move them. So anyway, I think we'll probably find a use for them out on the new space, because I do like them. I like the weightiness of those containers and the size. And anyway, we'll see. Christine said, this may be off topic, but I just watched Erin at Impatient Gardener remove daylilies, confessing that she didn't like them. It made me realize that I haven't seen daylilies in your garden either. Did I miss that? No judgment, just curious. I'm like, I don't know. Daylilies to me are a filler plant. I like their leaves. I like their grassy texture, and there are some really good varieties. I have really good luck with the going bananas. I have good luck with those. They bloomed for a lot of the season for me. We just planted them in front of the chicken coop this year. Orange smoothie has been a good one for me. The double peony display, Siloam double peony display. Those are gorgeous. They don't bloom very much or for a very long time, but I love having them in my garden because they're gorgeous. The color is beautiful. They look so delicate, almost like iris-esque in a way to me. But when we moved into this house, there were so many daylilies, so many of older varieties, and so much spiderwort that I've been pulling out so many of those plants, because if I have plants in my garden, unless I love them like that double peony display daylily, like for its bloom structure, I need to make sure that the plants that we have in here are like performing plants, that they always have something that is really awesome about them. So anyway, we have eradicated a lot of them from our garden, but we're slowly adding them back in. They're not like a favorite of mine, but I'm okay with them. Bonita said, how do I know when I should dig caladium and dahlias? Does that need to happen before a frost, or is it okay to leave them out until the first mild frost? And how do I prepare them for storage and keep them? So we will be doing videos about both calocasias, elephant ears, and dahlias and gladiolus, probably toward the end of this week or the beginning of next week, because we haven't actually had a frost yet, and I will wait until 1 or 2 frosts have happened, and we should have that by the end of this week. So I think you could probably do them at any point right now as it's getting cooler. Like as you have time, do it before it gets too late. But I will be waiting for a couple mild frosts. Sandra said, I see what you mean about going through all the comments. I think I may have missed a few of your videos. I never saw your new chickens and have not seen them in any of the videos I've been watching. Are they okay? I only see your original 4 chickens. Did they not come? So I have 4 chickens. There was only one left out of the original chickens we got last year after that weirdness passed through the coop. Anyway, she's doing great. Her name's Bev. She's starting to molt though, so she looks a little bit rough at the moment. But then we got 3 new chickens this summer and they're doing awesome. They like blended together beautifully, and honestly, I think 4 is going to be my max. 4 or 5 in that space, because they can't free range in our garden because, you know, our plants need to look nice. Chickens kind of destroy plants. So we made sure to build a nice size run, but I can't stand seeing chickens in small spaces. I just can't. It's just such a hard thing for me. And so when I had 10 in there, I thought, oh, I've overdone it a little bit. Like, they fit fine. They were perfectly happy until the weirdness went through, and we don't even know what that was that took my chickens. But anyway, I just like seeing 4 in there. I like to see them have a lot of room. It makes me happy, but they're all doing great, the 4 that are in there. Next video was harvesting sunflower seeds. So I had noticed that a few of my large gray striped sunflowers, the heads were starting to look like perfect signs of needing to be harvested. The seeds were a little bit loose. So anyway, it was a beautiful morning, like mid 40s or something like that. And I just loved it being out there harvesting those, and they're still sitting on our counter drying. I did put them in quite a thick layer, thicker than I had intended. I didn't realize I was going to get so many seeds on those trays, and so they're taking a little bit longer to dry, so they're still inside. Anyway, Kelly said, has anyone seen the video of the woman roasting a big sunflower head and eating it? Yes, I had, and I actually saw that comment a lot. I'm not sure that I'm like super interested in trying it that way. I mean, if somebody prepared it for me, maybe I would try it, but I don't think that I would do it on my own. I don't know. It's very interesting. Wildlife Gardener said, they are incredible sunflowers. How do you dispose of the rest of the plant? So a lot of the plant material that's coming out of both this space and our new space, I have a friend that has pigs. And so a lot of that stuff goes to her house and the pigs get to eat it. So like all the pumpkins, they've already been cleared out of the space. All the tomatoes have been. We're doing cucumbers and zucchinis are being cleared today. So all of that stuff is getting eaten by the pigs, which makes me so happy that I don't know, there's something about it. Like, our composting system isn't set up yet. It's the one thing that Erin kind of wanted to get done this fall, but it might be pushed to spring depending on the weather. And that's where a lot of it will go next year. But for now, it's feeding the pigs. And we are setting up a bit of a bonfire too, because we think Benjamin would really like to do a little bit of a bonfire out there. It's such a clear space. It's just like a dust bowl. There's nothing to catch on fire. So we've got like the leftover corn that's all dried in a pile out there. It'll be fun on some still evening going out there and lighting that. Janie said, did the chickens eat the seeds that you gave them? They've eaten a lot of them. They're still working on it though. I Kill Pretty Things said, is it weird that I want that as my shower head? I don't think it's weird at all. I think that would be awesome. I know that the sunflower heads were setting off people's, is it trypophobia? Trypophobia? It's like what is the definition of that? I gotta look that up really quick. Is it a fear of holes? So. Trypophobia is an aversion to the sight of irregular patterns or clusters of small holes or bumps, like lotus pods, honeycombs, sunflower seeds. Lorraine said, anyone else notice the ladybug on Laura's jacket at around 12:35 slowly crawling toward her jacket hood? That was also a very common comment, and I never noticed it. I don't even know where that ladybug ended up. Hopefully it was okay. Didn't get caught in my hair or something. Next video was planting grass seed along our lane, and I don't know how successful this one's gonna be. In fact, Erin and I, we drove by somebody's house last night that had pallets full of sod, and we were like, I wonder how much it would have actually cost just to put sod down. The thing about it is, my parents' garden center sells grass seed, right? So I get a really good deal on it. So it's very abundant for us, and we want both sides to match. So, you know, the other side of the lane's also going to have grass, but we don't have a sprinkler system set up there until hopefully next spring. And so we'll do grass there later. So we wanted to, like, I'm pretty sure you could get a hold of the same kind of sod in our area. But that spot would be, that's a lot of sod.
Like an acre of sod.
Yeah, how much does an acre of sod cost? So while Erin's looking up cost approximates here, in that video, we put down soil acidifier to help bring our pH down. Then we put down a lawn starter fertilizer, and then we put down our grass seed. Then we raked it, and then we turned on the water. I do think I see a little bit of green, Erin, in some spots. That's not a good reaction. So for sod, for 1/4 acre, Erin's finding a range of between $4,000 and $10,000. as opposed to like a couple $100 for grass seed. We may have to reseed in the spring. I don't know. We'll see. First question was from Joan. Did you say what kind of grass? I think I showed the tag. It's a Kentucky Bluegrass perennial rye blend. It's a third Kentucky Blue and 2/3 perennial rye, and it's the type of grass that my parents' garden center has been selling for as long as I can remember. It does really well in our area, and it's a beautiful lawn, and that's what we have here right now. Next question, I'm wondering, what are you going to be doing around or under the trees on the other side? I thought it'd be the same on both sides. Yes, it will be the same on both sides. We want it to be very like serene and peaceful, and just like that beautiful green grass and kind of a sweeping view, you know, over the left side of the property where it's bigger. It's going to evolve over time because there's other considerations too, like possible water features and possible flower beds and, you know, all that business. But we want to do a lot of grass and a lot of trees and have it be very peaceful and beautiful. Indoor Elvan. Oh, Ivan. Indoor Ivan. Oh my goodness. Can't wait to see that area become lush and green. What variety of grass would you recommend for shade? Well, in our area, and every climate's different, but in our area we do creeping red fescue, and that's a very shade tolerant grass. Denise said, what are the odds we see a rake attachment for the tractor soon? Is there such a thing? I thought about that.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yep.
We might need one of those before the next project. Tara said, grass is not so good for the environment, creates no good habitat for wildlife, so much maintenance with mowing and weeding, and it barely photosynthesizes. Why not do moss or closer lawns? Well, first off, we couldn't do moss. There's no way in our dry climate we could do that. There were other comments about maybe doing like some kind of a close ground cover. I like grass. I don't really want a ground cover in mass like that. And I think too, you have to consider the balance. Like we have a lot going on for forage, for the wildlife, and for, you know, habitat and things like that. I mean, sunflower patch alone, 1,700 feet of sunflowers that the birds are just foraging like crazy right now. So I do think that you should, you know, think about those things, and I totally see where you're coming from. Grass here is pretty easy to maintain. I mean, we do irrigate quite a lot. I think in my garden, I need to have it because it's like a resting place for your eyes. If all of our gardens were like, and I love formal gardens too, but if all of it was a formal garden and it was hedging and, you know, all these topiaries and stuff like that, I don't think I would enjoy the space. I need expanse of like serene and peaceful. It's also a really good place for Benjamin to play. But I do think there's balance there. Gloria said, can we order that grass seed from Andrew Seed? Could not find it on the website. I just actually texted my brother because he's kind of in charge of the website, and I asked him why it wasn't on the website. So I'm sure he will probably add it. He hasn't texted me back. He did try to call me earlier though. It was probably about that. I should have probably answered it. I was eating lunch. Priorities. I think that would be an easy thing for them to offer because, you know, you can buy it by the pound or by the half pound or whatever you want down at the garden center. A pound covers 250 square feet, just to give you an idea. I think it was like $2.95 a pound or something like that. I can't remember. Anyway, if that's something you're interested in, just keep checking on the website because I'm sure he maybe just hasn't got to it yet and he'll probably get added. Andrea said, about how many eggs do your hens lay in one day? I did show in that video a big zucchini I'd harvested out of the garden and I put it in the chicken run. And we have 4 hens out there and we get 4 eggs per day. It's a pretty good setup. We actually don't eat that many eggs around here, so 4 is plenty. Bethany said, what's the little green man for? Is it like a version of a lollipop man? It's actually a sign to tell people to drive slow because there's children present, which Benjamin does play. He's always got adult supervision really close by him, but not to say that kids can't move fast and can't get out in the way of vehicles and stuff. So we bought one of those a while ago and put it out. I do think though eventually, I was just talking to Aaron about putting like a little delivery drop box. Now that our lane is so much longer, it would be so nice for the delivery people to be able to drop stuff off in a little hut and then we could just go pick it up. And you know, delivery has become such a huge part of our life with, yeah, it just is how we receive so many of our things here. So there's a lot of delivery trucks all the time, and it does make me nervous because I want our kids to be able to roam about freely. So I think the little drop hut would be a really good idea. We'll have to figure something out for that, Erin, maybe. Critter Girl said, what are the chickens' names? So I have named the chickens. I've decided that I have to kind of assign some of their personal attributes as part of their name in order to remember what their names are. So the original one left from the original batch, her name is Beverly, we call her Bev. And then the 3 new ones, we have Broody Betty, because she's broody, and I have to gather eggs from underneath her every day. I should be taking the nesting box out after they're done laying and all that sort of thing. But anyway, Broody Betty, there's Shy Sadie. She's just the shyest one of the three, and then there's Poop Butt Patty. Because she always has kind of a poopy butt and I need to clean it right now. I always seem to have one chicken that has that problem. So Valerie said, hi, I just love you too. What is the brand and model of your sprinklers? That's a question for you, Erin. The finger sprinklers for the grass. Are they Rainbird, Hunter, or Rainbird? Okay. I have no good answer for you. Sorry. We will try to figure that out and let you know at some point in the video. Next video is a fall gardening checklist. So because our YouTube channel has grown this year, I believe a lot of gardening YouTube channels have grown this year with the intense increase in interest. Everybody's been home and spending more time outside, which is really a wonderful thing. And I love seeing that surge in interest. But anyway, decided to put together just a list of some basics to be thinking about in the fall as we're, preparing our gardens for winter, for those of you guys who are more on the beginner side of things with gardening. Nicole said, to shut down your drip irrigation systems for the winter, do you unhook them from the main lines or just open the caps to drain? Neither. We don't do anything with our drip tubing. The only thing that gets blown out are the actual sprinkler lines. So the full pipes that are underneath the ground that attach to our sprinklers, those get blown out. But drip lines, they just naturally emit all the water, and so there's really no water sitting in them. So we have no problems with those. If you have your drip tubing though hooked up to an outside hose, if it's not hooked into your irrigation system, it is a good idea to unhook it from the water source. So unhook it from the faucet, and you can get little caps that screw in so that you can keep any dirt or anything from getting into your drip tubing. So just make sure it's unhooked from that water source in that case. Pamela Grove said, thanks for all the great tips. As I've been following you, some things I've checked off my list. Couple questions. One, can you share what covers you use for your patio furniture? Yes. So these chairs that I'm sitting in right here are really the only ones we cover. This is the only area we actually sit in. The rest of the furniture we get either into the gazebo, under cover, or into the barn. But we use covers from Plow and Hearth. They're like these canvas covers that are awesome. They're big, they fit these big chairs right here, and they have handles on them, so when you pull them off the chairs, they almost kind of fold themselves, which is great. So we like to have these chairs dry and accessible all year, because with the fireplace here, even when it's snowy out, it's wonderful to come out here, pull the cover off, have a dry chair to sit in, and enjoy a fire. Number two, love your idea on prepping the bird feeders. Do you ever have a problem in the winter with squirrels feeding or digging on seeds that fall on the ground? We have squirrels, but I haven't seen that be a problem. I wonder, we have some baffles, like you can get baffles for the top of bird feeders, so you've got like the hook where it hooks to the tree and then it comes down, and then there's that umbrella baffle thing, so the squirrels can't get down underneath to where the bird feeder is hanging. But as far as like seeds on the ground, I wonder if you could scatter some repellent or something like that down. I know squirrels are really hard, and ours, we don't have them so, we don't have like a thick population of squirrels, so I haven't really seen much damage. I'm not super, I don't know, helpful, I'm sorry, on that question. Clarice said, can you update us on your barn? Have you added your new garage door yet? So the new garage door has not arrived yet, but the hole is there. They cut the hole in the barn, and it looks awesome. Even though there's no door, I'm loving it so much. But right now we're waiting on the electricians. Nobody can do anything else until the electricians have come and reworked the wiring, because to reposition the center door, there is a panel, an electrical panel like right there that we're gonna have to move back a few feet so it's out of the way, and then they're gonna rewire a few lights so that we have 4 lights instead of 2 on the outside of the doors. Same with the root cellar. It's so close to being done, but we're just waiting to wire up the heater / AC unit and then put in some outlets and the light, and then we'll paint in there, and then we're good to go. So just little things that we need to wait to button up. Everyone's so busy right now. Heather said, thanks for all these great tips. That was my first year planting the Proven Winners Oh So Easy roses. Should I cut them back for winter? No, I would wait till spring. It's a good idea to trim them back a bit. They do bloom on new wood, but they will get buds like further down on the branches, and it'll be more full and dense of bloom if you do prune them back just a little bit in the spring. You can do them in the winter, but it's only really for warmer climates. I would just like err on the side of doing it in the spring. Also, I have a dwarf bloomerang lilac from Proven Winners. I've never cut that back, should I? At this point, I wouldn't, because you'll be cutting off some buds for next year's, like the first flush of bloom. If it's wild and unruly and stuff and you just want to tame it down, you can do that, but you will be forfeiting that first flush of bloom. The nice part about the bloomerangs is that they do bloom more. So it will still bloom for you if you should want to cut it back now, but I would just wait and give it a little time. Let it, its first flush of bloom is usually the best flush of the whole bloomering season. So I would wait until at least after that. Alicia said, is that porch your lemon tree stays on heated? It is not heated, but it stays considerably warmer than the outside temperature. And when it gets really cold in the winter, which like last year, it never really got super, super cold, but I just run a little floor heater just to take the edge off. It's one of those floor heaters that's like temperature sensitive, and you can set it like if it hits below, I can't remember where I set it. Like if the temperature goes below 40, it kicks on. Anyway, I have to look at that. It's been a long time since last winter. Megan said, can you do a checklist video for every season? I think that's a really good idea, Erin. Like a spring checklist, and or even like a monthly checklist, honestly, because spring is so like vast in what you need to be doing, and each month kind of brings its own things. So that'd be a good thing to work on during the winter months, I think. Yeah. Gardening from Scratch says, how many hours per day are you in your gardens or doing garden related things? Boy, doing garden related things, a lot of hours, because I mean, if you were to consider all the time we spend prepping for videos and filming videos and then cleaning up from videos, a lot of hours is spent doing garden related things. And then are there days when you don't go out to do anything but enjoy your space? Yes. In fact, we've found more balance since Benjamin has been born, and we've been able to bring on a little bit of help. We've been able to take more weekends and just like relax on weekends. I mean, it doesn't mean I am away from all of it, because I still have to water. I don't have help here on the weekends to help with any of that sort of thing. So there's usually like an hour at least of just coming out here, checking on things. But I kind of consider that relaxed time too, just because it's a good time to kind of like reconnect with how everything's doing out here, and just look at things and just in a more peaceful, less hurried way. But yes, we do have more time now where we just enjoy, which is such a huge blessing. And the last video from this week was planting 24 gorgeous containers with bulbs, and then tips on how to get them to overwinter. That was fun, and I'm so excited to see what those look like in the spring. I did not mention in that video, because I mentioned they needed to be stored or kept in an area that stays between 35 and 45 degrees. And so the refrigerator is an option for those of you like in warmer zones where it doesn't get down that cold, or those of you who are in extremely cold zones where you want to kind of protect them a little bit and then plant them out later once it warms up a bit. I didn't mention that it's not a good idea to store bulbs anywhere near fruit that might be in your refrigerator, because fruit, especially apples, release ethylene. I think it's ethylene gas, which will make the bulb not form a flower. I mean, it just like decreases the productivity of your plant big time, and the storage quality. So keep that in mind. I totally forgot to mention that. Janice said, didn't you plant bulbs in pots last year and they didn't work out so great? What are you doing differently this time to get better results? So I did the True Drop containers last year, and it did not get very cold, and it stayed pretty warm in the greenhouse, the cold frame. We're thinking about moving them out of the cold frame actually and storing them right outside it. I'm not sure though what we're going to do, because it's supposed to be like 18 and 19 degrees this weekend. So I think it's just going to be a matter of watching the temperatures and making sure that we stay on it. And if it warms up for a long period of time, like moving them out to where they'll get the cold that they need. Those containers actually ended up doing pretty good. The ones from last year, I had like 2 that maybe performed a little bit poorly, but most of them had some beautiful blooms in them. So I was thankful for that. It was just like, I think what kind of bummed me out about that display last year is that I just went down to my parents' garden center, basically bought up what they had left over, and so nothing really had the right bloom time, so they weren't all blooming at the same time, and I was envisioning like this huge show of 14 containers full of blooms all at the same time, and it did not happen that way. The ones I planted in these containers span from early to late spring, but they all should overlap right in that mid-spring zone, so we should have a time, like a several week period in the middle, where we have a lot of blooms all at the same time. I'm hoping anyway. If everything works out, you just never know for sure. Garden Evolution said, why not use the pillars and then the concrete benches you planned on moving as like risers? Because I need to figure out how to make them look like, I showed you a picture of Klaus Dalby's display. He is from Denmark, and he does amazing bulb displays, and that's who inspired me like initially. I've seen other gardeners do it too since I saw his, but I always enjoy seeing his combinations. Anyway, he's got his stuff on like risers, like some kind of a bench system. Granted, his containers are a lot smaller than ones I used. They're probably not as heavy. So I'm not sure. I got to figure out some way to get some different elevations. I can use pillars. I've got 2 big pillars I can use, but I don't want to use all pillars and all concrete because I need something that's going to disappear. Because there's a lot of activity and a lot of interest going on those containers themselves that I don't want a bunch of distraction underneath them, if that makes sense. Whoa. So like a simple iron bench system that's really strong would be really perfect. I need to get some welding equipment, Aaron.
What's that?
I need to get myself some iron and some welding equipment. I could create something awesome.
Good.
I know how to weld. Johanna said, are these bulbs part of your order with color blends? No. So we are going to be doing our color blends bulb planting video, probably because I'm not like able to do as much in one sitting as I've been able to do in the past. We'll probably do a couple different videos because our bulb order weighed over 1,000 pounds. So we have a ton of bulbs to put in the ground and in other containers from color blends. I'm really excited. In fact, I was hoping to do a few of them today. I don't know if that we're going to get to it, but it will probably be this week and next week, kind of span over the course of those weeks. It's actually been too warm here to plant bulbs up to this point, so I'm excited that it's cooling off enough to do that. Janet said, how often do you need to water them? I'm zone 7, and unfortunately that is just a question I cannot answer. You just want to shoot for that water being slightly damp, never completely dried out, and never sopping wet. And that will depend on wind, where you have your things positioned, how big of a container you have them in, what kind of soil exactly you used, if you're getting rainfall, all those things factor in. Jake said, hey Laura, have you ever tried Fritillaria imperialis, I think. They're so tall and cool looking. They are tall and cool looking, but they're bright orange, and I have a little bit of a hard time using that color. So I have never grown those before. I have seen them in other gardens, and it might be something that I try at some point, because I do enjoy trying things, even if it's not within my color wheel exactly. Diane said, I'm curious, where will you be displaying them? I don't really know. So I'm thinking up in our Versailles garden, kind of where the gallery scroll urns ended up for the fall display, like maybe doing like big groupings right there. I've also thought like our parking area would work. They may not all end up in the same spot, to be honest. I might meter them out a little bit. It just kind of depends on how it all goes. Karen said, I'm in zone 4. Could I just keep my bulbs in the freezer so I don't have to worry or do the extra steps to make sure they don't freeze? Not the freezer, the refrigerator. You can do that. In zone 4, I think you'd still probably be okay planting them in the ground. You know, we've had some really cold winters here too. Bulbs act different in the ground than they do in containers. And that's why there's all the precautions about not letting them freeze and such. When they're in the ground, they're insulated so much better than they are in containers. They're also like the water is able to drain out from them, as opposed to containers. It's a lot harder to control water situations and that sort of thing. So the precautions I gave in the video, or the tips rather, kind of really pertain more to containers, growing bulbs in containers rather than growing them in the ground. Shirley said, these will be beautiful in the spring. I've noticed you never plant crocus, my favorite. Do you just not like them? No, I love crocus. And I planted some in containers last year. And I think the reason I haven't really focused on them as much is I've just been working on getting some bigger bulbs, like some bigger drifts of daffodils and tulips. This garden didn't really have a lot of that when we moved in. And so I've been really focusing on the big stuff first, and kind of like have forgotten a little bit about the smaller things. And I just kind of thought, you know, in the end I would add those in as, you know, a second layer down, but I really should add more because they're so early and so beautiful. And that's it. That's the last question. I didn't even realize where I was at in the lineup here. So anyway, yeah, I hope you guys are all having a great day and a great week so far. And we will see you in the next video. Bye.